Welcome to BioWise with Aanchal. All the 7 standards, now you are grown up. You have come to 8th standard. So let's start with the 8th standard syllabus from the month of April only. Or let us start studying from the beginning so that we are well equipped with the understanding of the concepts of standard 8 biology. So let us begin with the first chapter of bio, that is called Transportation in Plants. Transportation in plants. Now, plants have not got a very complex system of transportation that we have. We have the entire digestive system, we have the circulatory system. Digestive system is working hard to take out the nutrients and then send it through the blood transported to the various cells and the tissues. That does not happen in case of plants. Plants are rather simpler. They have few conducting tissues and we will study about the detail. Before talking about what is transportation, let me tell you that there are certain notes of this chapter in the description. So kindly go through the same, it will help you in your preparation for your exams. Yes, so let us start with transportation. First of all, what is transportation? Transportation is movement of one substance from one place to the other place. Plant has got the conducting tissues. What are conducting tissues in plants? Yeah, the complex tissues. In standard 7 we have already studied about tissues. You know that plant has got the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue, the simple tissue and the complex tissue. In complex tissue, we have studied about xylem and phloem, if you remember. We are going to revise that concept again in transportation, because what we need to understand is the xylem and the phloem. Xylem for conduction of water and phloem for translocation of food. Now, conducting tissues. There are two types of conducting tissues present: xylem and phloem. Okay. Now, when you say xylem, xylem is for water and minerals. Water plus minerals, and your phloem is for food. For phloem, for food. Okay. Now, what does xylem do? Xylem helps in conduction of water. Conduction of water. And what phloem does? Translocation of food. Translocation of food. Now, when the translocation of food happens, you know that in the leaf we have a process called photosynthesis. Then the food goes to the phloem, and from the phloem it moves to the different parts for storage. Is that clear? Now, what form of sugar is synthesized in the leaf by the process of photosynthesis? Can anybody define what is photosynthesis and write the definition of photosynthesis in the comment box? Let me see who can write completely correct definition of photosynthesis. And don't worry when you are wrong, I will correct it. Yes? So, now photosynthesis happens, the sugar which is produced is glucose. It gets transformed to sucrose when it travels in phloem, and finally it is stored as starch. This is very important. So, photosynthesis, glucose is synthesized, glucose gets converted to sucrose, and then it gets translocated to the various parts of the plant, and in various parts of the plant you have starch as a storage molecule. Is this clear? Now, let us go into the detail of xylem. We have already studied in 7th standard that xylem has got 4 parts. Okay, what are the 4 parts? You have xylem tracheids, the elongated cells. You had xylem vessels, also called tracheae. Now vessels helps in the conduction of water. Then you have xylem fibers for support and parenchyma, the only living cells of xylem, that is xylem parenchyma. Is that clear? When you talk about phloem, phloem also has got sieve cells that helps in translocation. Then you have companion cells which helps in supporting the sieve cells and helping it with nutrition. Then you have phloem parenchyma, and you have fibers, phloem fibers. These are the various components of xylem and phloem, already discussed in standard 7, but still I have repeated with the concept so that you can understand what is conducting tissues. Is that clear? Any doubt, put it in the comment section. Okay, I hope this is clear. Let me quickly rub the board. Now let us understand what is the difference between xylem and phloem. Okay, now when you talk about xylem, what is the function? Conducts water. What are the component of xylem? You have got xylem vessels, tracheids, then you have fibers, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. Okay. Now xylem parenchyma is the only living tissue. Then if you say the conducting tissue of xylem, that is vessels and tracheids, they are dead. They are dead cells. Okay. The flow of water, that is transportation, is unidirectional. Transportation is unidirectional. What does unidirectional mean? It's always from the root to the shoot, to the leaves. Okay, why is water needed? Water is needed for the process of photosynthesis. So water has to be conducted till the leaves. So that process happens through the xylem. So the flow of water is always from the root to the leaves. Next point is there is no expenditure of energy. There is no expenditure of energy. That means there is no expenditure of ATP. Water is conducted through xylem by the process of cell to cell osmosis. Okay, we will be studying about osmosis in some time. Now same way, if I have to describe about phloem. Okay, for phloem, if you see the difference, it translocates. Please understand the words, children. Translocates. Now conduction and translocation are the two types of transportation. So phloem translocates food and xylem conducts water. Phloem is also made up of, phloem fibers, parenchyma, then you have got sieve cells and you have got companion cells. Okay. Then that is translocating cell, that is sieve cells. Translocating cells, that is sieve cells, is living. In case of xylem it is dead, but in case of phloem it is living. Transportation happens in both the direction. Transportation occurs in two directions, that is bidirectional. The food goes to the root also from the leaf. Where is the food synthesized? Food is synthesized in the leaves by the process of photosynthesis. The form of sugar is glucose. Now this glucose has to be sent to the other parts of the tip of the plant and also to the root of the plant. So the flow of food happens in two directions and it requires energy. It requires energy. So energy is required. Is the difference clear? Xylem and phloem, what is the difference? Yes, so let us move to the next topic. The next topic is about certain experiments to prove that xylem is only required for the conduction of water. So there is a very simple experiment where you take a test tube, right? You put colored water in it, put oil, and there is a plant, okay? There is a plant. So when you leave it for some time, what will you observe? This is the root and there is colored water. Now what will happen? After some time you will realize that the water level has dropped. So where the water has gone? The water has been lost from the aerial parts of the leaf. The process we will be studying, okay? Now what happens? Since the level of water has gone, the root must have absorbed the water. So when you take the transverse section of the stem, you realize that there is only one segment of cells which is actually pink. Rest all things remain white or of their own color. This shows that the xylem vessels, the xylem conducts water, and since xylem conducts water, it has taken up the stain of the colored water. So this can be asked in the exam, that what is the aim of the experiment. So aim of the experiment will be to show that xylem conducts water, right? And many other experiments can be demonstrated. There is an experiment of girdling in which a tree trunk is taken and a portion of the trunk is being cut, that is only from the outer side it is being cut. There is a smaller inner segment, okay. So after some time what happens, since xylem is present, the water will go up, okay, the water will go up, but the food which is coming from the leaf will start coming down and will get accumulating in the phloem, okay. This will lead to a swelling in the trunk of the tree or the stem of the tree, and slowly and steadily you will realize that the plant will die because the food is not reaching to the roots. Is that clear? So this proves that phloem helps in translocation of food, helps in translocation of food. This is also called the girdling experiment. Girdling experiment. Okay, this is very important to understand. Xylem helps in conduction of water and phloem helps in translocation of food. Take a screenshot if you are interested. Next we move to the root. What are the special characteristics of root? Root hair. Okay, so let me rub the board. The next topic is water absorption by roots. Okay, that is water absorption by root. Now what are the special characteristics of root which helps it to absorb water? The first thing is that root has got enormous amount of root hairs which helps in increasing the surface area for absorption. So what are the characteristic features of root hair? First, the diagram is important. Okay, let me draw the cell wall first. You know we are drawing plant cell. So let me draw the cell wall first. Okay, I have just tried to show a complete root hair and an emerging root hair. Okay, then you have got a cell membrane. Okay, cell membrane is the second layer. So let me draw the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. The cell membrane and the plasma membrane sticking to the cell wall. Is this clear? I think the diagram, children, see how I am drawing the diagram. In exam, drawing the diagram can be asked for 3 marks, where you need to draw the diagram and label it. 1 mark is for the right diagram and 2 marks is for the correct label. Then since it is a plant cell, it has got a very huge vacuole. You can say half of the plant is covered, half of the cell is covered with the vacuole only. This is the nucleus present. Similarly, you can have a vacuole and a nucleus. Okay, so this is how the structure is all about. Let me label it for you. This is a cell wall. The yellow part is the cell membrane. What is the membrane of a vacuole called? It's called a tonoplast. What is the liquid present in the vacuole called? It is called the cell sap. What is the liquid present in the cell called? Cytoplasm. Okay, this orange thing completely is a vacuole. This is the nucleus, and this one is basically the root hair. I have given you so many labels, right? So you can, and what are these cells? These cells are what? The epidermal cells, because it is only the epidermal cells of the root which contains root hair. So these are epidermal cells. Okay, these are all epidermal cells. And this is a neat, well labeled diagram of a root hair. Not a root hair, basically a cell showing the root hair. So what are the characteristic features of the root hair which helps it in maximum absorption? First of all, it is a single cell thick. So easy diffusion of the nutrients and the water can take place, osmosis can take place. Then the cell sap is highly concentrated. So osmosis can happen. There are enormous amount of root hair. So the surface area for absorption is also increased. Okay. The question can be, what is the concentration of cell sap which helps the root hair to absorb water? That is high concentration. Always remember, the cell sap of the root hair cells or the epidermal cells have higher concentration. This higher concentration helps in the absorption or the osmosis to happen. Is that clear, everyone? So root is clear, root hair is clear, the characteristics of the root hair is clear. You can take the screenshot for the diagram. The diagram can be asked to draw. Marks will be 3, out of which 1 mark is for drawing and 2 marks is to label it correctly. Okay? Yes. Is this clear? Now let me rub it quickly. Now next topic is about the types of transport. If there is any query or doubt related to whatever topics I have covered, put it in the comment section so that I can solve your doubt. Children, there is going to be an assessment also, which I will put it in the description. Once you are done with the complete understanding of the chapter, solve the assessment so that you can also assess that how much you have understood. Yes? Next topic is types of transport. Now when we talk about transport, broad classification has 2 types. One is passive transport and the other one is active transport. Active transport. In passive transport, there is no energy involved, and in active transport you have ATP utilized or used. The expenditure of ATP is there. For passive transport, generally the movement happens from higher concentration to lower concentration. And in active transport, you have it from low concentration to high concentration using energy. Now, to make this concept very clear, I will tell you, for example, if you want, suppose it's raining. So, if you want the water to flow into a well, then do you think you have to spend any energy? The water will directly go into the well, right? But when you want the water from the well to be taken out, then what you need? Either you need your mechanical energy, or you make machines like pulley and all to take out the water, or you use the pump or the motor to take out the water. So, for making the water move against the gradient, you are spending energy. Similarly, the cells also have to spend energy when they want the molecules to move from a lower concentration to higher concentration. Now, coming to the different types of passive transport. Passive transport, when you say, they are of three types. What are those? First is imbibition. Okay. Next one is diffusion, and the last one is osmosis. When you say osmosis, osmosis can be endoosmosis or exoosmosis. Is that clear? Active transport, the name is active transport only, there is no such types. Now, when I say imbibition, so only it's a surface phenomenon. It's a surface phenomenon. So, how the dead parts of the plant absorb water, right? Like in rainy season, generally the wooden doors gets jammed, or even the germination of seed, the initial soaking of water is imbibition. Even the emerging of seedling from the soil is also because of the imbibition, right? The turgor pressure, imbibition. Diffusion is what? If I spray perfume, after some time the entire room will be occupied by the perfume smell. That is diffusion. Movement of molecule from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration when kept in contact. If I spray a perfume in a closed box, it is not going to be spread to the entire room. Is that correct? And what is osmosis? Osmosis is the process in which the water molecules move. It is the solvent which moves. So, if you have to define what is osmosis, osmosis is defined as a process in which water molecule moves from a region of its higher concentration, to a region of its lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable membrane is a prerequisite, is a very important thing for the process of osmosis to happen. Is this clear? Osmosis, any doubt? And what is active transport? The process of movement of molecules, it can be anything, molecules from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane by spending energy. So, active transport and osmosis requires semi-permeable membrane. Is that clear? Now, children, the definitions of these is there in the description. Download the file, you get the notes for this chapter. Any doubt? Put it in the comment section. I will help you with the explanation. Now, next what we are going to study is about transpiration. We have studied all. Now, which tissue is helping in transport, you are aware. Now, what are the processes by which the absorption takes place, you are aware. Now, there are different types of forces which helps in the movement of water from the root to the leaves. Okay. So, let me rub the board quickly. So, let us quickly summarize what we have studied and we will add up transpiration to it. Now, when you have to draw a plant, okay. Now, when you have to draw a plant, this is the plant. Under the ground there is roots. Is that clear? Followed by you have the leaves. Right, this is the plant. Now, what happens? In the root, the water and the minerals are absorbed. So, the process basically involved here is osmosis, okay, endoosmosis. Then the water, let me show it with the blue color, the water moves up to the leaves and from the leaves it moves out in the air. Okay. Now this is ascent of sap, ascent of sap, and finally when it leaves the plant in the form of vapor is the transpiration. Is that clear? So what are the forces which helps in the ascent of sap? Now the initial force is the root pressure. Root pressure is the pressure developed in the cells of the root because of the movement of water from the soil into the root by the process of osmosis. But this pressure is not enough to make the water rise for more than 2 meters. So imagine how the water will go for a coconut tree, isn't it? So in this case there are other forces also. One is a cohesive force. That is, cohesive means water molecule to water molecule. You have adhesive force. That is water molecule to xylem vessels. And then you have the transpirational pull. Transpirational pull, which does the final rising of water from the root to the leaves. Now you know that water molecules move in this way. Okay, so there is a kind of force of attraction between the two water molecules. That is a cohesive force. There is a force of attraction between the water molecule and the xylem vessel. That is a adhesive force. Cohesive force and adhesive force makes the water to flow in column. Continuous flow of water is maintained by these two forces. Initial uptake of water can be by the capillary force also. You know capillary? Capillary is a small tube. If you put a small tube in a liquid, you will find there is a rise in the level of liquid in the tube. That is called the capillary force. So by capillary force also there is initial uptake of water, followed that osmosis is the major one. These all forces helps in the process of ascent of sap, that is conduction of water. Any doubt? Put it in the comment section. So now let us focus on transpiration. Now what is transpiration? Transpiration is a process by which water is lost in the form of water vapor. Water is lost in the form of water vapor through the aerial parts of the plant, like leaves, stems, right? So transpiration, generally these are the keywords. Water is lost from the aerial parts of the plant in form of water vapor. So that is transpiration. If you have to compare transpiration, you can compare it to evaporation and even perspiration. Now evaporation is what? The water changing into water vapor at a normal temperature. Perspiration is when you are sweating and then when the sweat evaporates, you feel cold, cooler, right? Similarly, transpiration also cools the plant. So what transpiration does? First is it helps in the ascent of sap, and the second function, the importance of transpiration is cooling effect. It cools the plant and at the same time it helps in the conduction of water. There are certain factors which affects transpiration. Those factors we have already studied in evaporation. The same factors which affects evaporation can affect transpiration. Let us see in detail. Next topic is the factors affecting transpiration. So what are the factors affecting transpiration? The first factor is sunlight. When you have high intensity of sunlight, that means heat is high, then the rate of transpiration is also high. Transpiration is also high. So you have increased sunlight, you have increased transpirational rate. Then you have humidity. Increase in humidity. Now since humidity is high, that means there is water content in the atmosphere. So obviously the rate of transpiration will go down. Next one is wind. If you have more wind, or if you have the air flowing, or you can say, simple example, if you want the cloth to dry faster, we tend to move it in front of the fan or keep it in front of the fan. Obviously the cloth gets dried faster. So evaporation increases when there is increase in the wind. Similarly, transpiration also increases when there is increase in the wind. Okay. Next one is the temperature. When the temperature is high, the amount of water lost by the plant is also high. So except humidity, rest all are having direct relationship with the transpirational rate. But for humidity, it is a inverse relationship, that is increase in one factor, decrease in the other. Is this clear? We will just do a small experiment. I will show you a small experiment. I cannot show you the experiment directly, but I will draw the diagram on the board. The question can be asked on that. Okay, you take a potted plant. Okay, you cover the plant with a cellophane, that is pot, with a plastic paper or a sheet, and the plant is here. Is it okay? The plant is here. You have to cover the plant with a bell jar. Okay, you have to cover the plant with a bell jar. Bell jar is just an inverted glass jar. Okay. When you leave this glass jar for some time under the sun, you will realize there are certain droplets of water present on it. Now this diagram can be given in your paper and question can be asked on the basis of this. What do you think is the reason for the droplet of water? The answer is transpiration. Drops of water. This is the water due to transpiration which came out from the leaves have condensed on the glass jar, showing that plant gives out water vapor, right? The water is lost from the plant in form of vapor by the process of transpiration. And why we have used this plastic cover? So that there is no evaporation from the soil. There is a paper called the cobalt chloride paper. The cobalt chloride paper. Okay, I will use the other color. The cobalt chloride paper. This is required to detect whether transpiration has happened or not. When the cobalt chloride paper is dry, the color is blue. When you keep it here, after some time you will realize that the color of the cobalt chloride paper has turned pink, showing that it is wet. That means showing the presence of water. Showing the presence of water. Okay. So cobalt chloride paper is required to detect moisture. If moisture is present, it will turn pink, and if there is no moisture, it will remain blue. So cobalt chloride paper can detect the presence of moisture, hence can be used in the transpirational experiments. Is that clear? Last part of this chapter are the nutrients. Now when I have to say nutrients for the plant, there are two types of nutrients. One is a macronutrient and the other one is micronutrient. Macronutrient, that is required in larger amount, and there is micronutrient which is required in very less amount, you can say in traces. Okay. Now for example, if I have to talk about macronutrients, the macronutrient is NPK. What is NPK? Nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Nitrogen is required, as deficiency of nitrogen can lead to yellowing of the leaf. Then phosphorus, if it is not present, there are purple and reddish spots present in the leaves, and potassium is required for the proper growth and metabolism of the plant. So deficiency can lead to the stunted growth. Yes. Micronutrients, iron, manganese and zinc. 2, 2, 2. There can be exceptions, but how I remember, these symbols are 1, 1 each. Macro you are used in large amount, and iron, manganese and zinc is required in traces. Now your homework is to find out what these nutrients deficiency can lead in the plants. I will give you the answer to this later if you ask for it in the comment section, that what are these nutrients important for. You can also put it in the comment section so that your friends can read and find out why each nutrient is important. Is that clear? If you understood what I taught, subscribe, like and share if it is worth sharing. Happy learning, children.